Welcome to another episode of Video Game Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Super Crush KO! Super Crush KO on the Nintendo Switch. And, where to start? Well, you know what? It's probably not a great way to do it, but I think I'm going to start with, do I recommend it? And here's the answer. Is it in my top 5 Switch games? Nope. Is it in my top 10? Maybe. You know, I really need to sit down and compile a list and figure all that out. But it probably not even in my top 10. But having said that, it's pretty enjoyable. And so, as to whether or not it's worth it, I would say stick it on your wish list. If it goes on sale, which it does, absolutely check it out. It's worth your time. It's a fun game. I want to say it took me like 4 or 5 hours to finish the game, and so while that's short enough that you could theoretically sit down and plow through the entire game in one sitting, I will say that while it is really enjoyable, it's enjoyable in bite sizes, right? So you might sit down and play it for half an hour or an hour, somewhere in there, maybe an hour and a half on the longer end of a play session, and then you're going to be ready to set it down for a while, which I think is not a bad thing. What else? Okay, so what are the problems with this game? First of all, there's not that much throughout the entire game. There's just not that much enemy variety. It's just different combinations of mostly the same enemies, and they'll introduce a new enemy type periodically, but it's very repetitive as far as the types of enemies that you encounter, and the backgrounds. Throughout the entire game, the backgrounds are very similar, and after a while you do just kind of start to think that maybe they could have put a little more effort into switching up the visuals a little bit, providing a little more variety. It does have that sort of flash game look to it, which some people will take that as an insult. I don't mean that as an insult at all. I really don't think it's a bad thing. Back in the day, probably a decade ago or whatever, I played a lot of games on ArmorGames.com, and I really quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed that indie scene for what it was, and I thought some of the games were really clever and addictive, and free for that matter. So this one obviously isn't free, but it's it's pretty clever and addictive fun. And so basically what you're doing here is, you're fighting enemies, obviously. It's as you can see, it's 2D, kind of I wouldn't call it a beat 'em up though, I would call it an action game. And the distinction there really is in a beat 'em up, you typically have a faux 3D space on which you maneuver your character, and on this, it's just straight up 2D. Alright, and so part of the goal of this game, and there are like online leaderboards and stuff like that you can try to get competitive with if you're so inclined to. So what you have to achieve is just to survive through the levels, but what you kind of want to achieve is to see if you can string together a combo that will last the entire stage, or as close to that as you possibly can get, so you can get an S rank. And I don't find those types of challenges necessarily that engaging in every game. I'm not quite that OCD with it, but in some games they really make it appealing, and I feel like this is one of those games. Like the combat, the sound effects, first of all, when you land hits, just sounds great, and that's a big part of what makes combat in a video game satisfying. Okay, and it definitely is here. You unlock, as you progress through the game, you unlock additional special moves, and just seeing how you can chain all of that together to extend your combos is actually really satisfying. The combat is kind of great, actually. What else? So in addition to punches and kicks, you also have a gun with ammunition, which fills up automatically, or do you have to fill it up by using melee attacks? To be honest with you, I don't remember. You can probably watch the video and suss that out for yourself. But either way, the game rewards using a variety of moves, right? So it's not just punch, 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 punch. That would get very, very boring. So you're constantly switching between your regular attacks, you're jumping around, you've got a double jump, you're using special moves, you're using your gun, and figuring out the best ways to kind of mix that all up in a way that is effective in combat and also just keeps the action going. You also have a dash evade move, which basically renders you temporarily invincible and is key to keeping your combo going, because obviously if you take it doesn't matter how high your combo is stacked, like most games that implement some sort of a fighting combo system, if you take one hit, your combo goes back down to 0. So the evade move is super important to that. And also there's a timer. You know, you can't just take even if you're not taking damage, you can't just take as long as you want to land that next hit. You have a certain amount of time before your combo meter resets if you don't deal damage in that window of time. So, alright, so look, I'm going to wrap it up here. Basically, the long and short of it, it's a little simplistic. If you like the kind of minimalist visuals, which I do, I wish there was more variety in the backgrounds, like I said, but overall I do enjoy the visuals. The combat's really satisfying, and if you can catch it on a sale, I would recommend doing so. Alright, I think that's going to be all for now. Big shout out to all my subscribers and anyone that watches my show. I appreciate you guys. Click the bell notification button, the like button, click all the buttons. Please, what a pain in the ass. I know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.